Welcome to the PETA Podcast. I'm Emil Guillermo, your host for this behind-the-scenes look at PETA, the largest animal rights organization in the world. Here we talk to the key players at PETA and the movement and ask them about how animal rights change their lives and how they stay motivated to make the world a better place for the animals. On today's episode, Guilt-Free Veganism, how PETA's Vegan Mentor Program helps you step up to compassion.
It's so easy to focus on this being like some kind of pursuit of personal purity when in reality, we really need to shift that mentality towards pragmatism. We much more need to focus on not the end goal of veganism, but those individual choices that we're making. And okay, if you like make a mistake and you're weak at the knees in a situation, okay, fine. Like keep moving forward. That doesn't mean we give up on the rest of this focus and this shift towards compassion.
Keith Burgeson is an athlete, a competitive runner, who made veganism his edge in all aspects in his life. The compassionate lifestyle has been good for mind, body, and soul, and now Burgeson shares his passion as PETA's Vegan Mentor Coordinator, a program that has helped hundreds of people worldwide transition and become vegans. And when the going gets tough, the mentors are there to support with a guilt-free approach that is as compassionate to the aspiring vegan as it is to the animals they're trying to save.
Unfortunately, people have, to some degree, that view of vegans because they've had some type of negative interaction with a vegan being judgmental or preachy or chastising somebody for a decision they've made or not doing enough. But at the end of the day, if you're 80% of the way there, that is fantastic. And we want to support that and help you appreciate that as much as possible because that's beautiful and it makes a massive difference. And with that last 20%, we'll work on it. That's why we're here and that's why we're always here. You never lose your mentor and we just strive to keep doing better, just like anything in life. This shift towards not eating animals isn't different than anything. We want to constantly evaluate who we are and improve upon ourselves whenever possible.
More about PETA's Vegan Mentor Program, how it can help you transition to full-out vegan as a mentee, or how you can mentor. All that and more next on the PETA Podcast. But first, thanks again for joining us here at the PETA Podcast. Please share a link with your friends and let them know the animals have a voice on the PETA Podcast. Go to our webpage at PETA.org. And here are some of my favorites. There's the first episode with PETA President and co-founder Ingrid Newkirk, who debunks all the myths you've heard about PETA and animal rights. Did we include that part about vegan sex? I'll have to check out that episode again. Or how about vivisection? Now there's a transition. Do you know the difference between the regulatory testing methods, like the kind they do to protect consumers from bad products, or maybe the curiosity testing method, essentially Frankenstein testing, like the kind they do at Texas A&M? Listen to episodes 23, 20, and 11 and find out the difference between regulatory testing and curiosity testing. I like one of our earlier episodes, number 2, with PETA's Chief Counsel, Jeff Kerr, who is at the forefront to make sure people see how racism and speciesism are connected. Binge listen right now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you catch your podcast. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, don't forget to rate and review the show. It helps the algorithm know that PETA has a podcast on the issues important to you. Now, if you really want to help the animals, you can always just hit the Donate Now button at PETA.org. And if you're high-tech and have Amazon's Alexa, it really is as easy as saying, "Alexa, donate to PETA." And now to our episode. Keith Burgeson is the PETA Vegan Mentor Coordinator. And if you think you're alone when it comes to trying to become vegan, think again. The Mentor Program can help you every step of the way. It's a kind and gentle approach. I see it as a kind of Carnivores Anonymous to help people renounce meat and keep you on the path toward compassion. If you find yourself lonely and alone with loved ones and associates mocking you for making compassionate choices in your lifestyle, PETA's Vegan Mentor Program can help you. On this episode of the PETA Podcast. Keith, you're helping people one-on-one make this transition. Tell me about what's the greatest joy about helping someone turn from a non-vegan to a vegan?
With this lifestyle, it's such a cliche thing to say as a vegan, but it ends up being one of the, if not the most important lifestyle changes to people down the line or in the moment. And to be a part of that, to be someone who is a foundational component, a go-to person for another individual during this huge shift in their life, not only for their health, but their emotional well-being, their ability to enhance their empathy and their compassion for other beings and to help the world. I mean, this is a lifestyle that can make a huge difference on the environment. And like I said before, personal health, this is something that is very, very important. And it's very rewarding to be part of that and to be that foundational piece for someone during this shift.
So when it happens and you take someone through all the steps and you get to the end and they're fully vegan and you no longer have to call them, how does it make you feel? I mean, does it make you feel great? Does it make you feel like you just had 100 green smoothies at once? Or how does it make you feel?
Gosh, it really is difficult to put into words. It is something that, because it is so deeply rooted in who I am and what I feel, is something that each of us as individuals can do to make the world a healthier, a more compassionate place. It's when it's something that I am so deeply passionate about, and there's nothing in the world that is more important to me than helping people and helping the planet become more empathetic. I mean, that is the engine that drives us. I mean, that's who we are. And that's something that, if we're able to instill a deeper level of empathy and compassion throughout the world would benefit immensely. And this lifestyle is one of those avenues, and I would argue the most prominent and advantageous avenue to adhere to towards reaching that goal of a more empathetic world. So it feels phenomenal. It's people are very appreciative of the assistance that we're able to give them, because for some people it can be either intimidating or emotional or just confusing, and that's the beauty of our program. It's that personalization. We're able to lend that to people, and it's powerful.
Now, is it ever a kind of life or death kind of situation?
For me, or for the aspiring vegan?
for all the people involved. I guess mostly for the aspiring vegan. Certainly for the animals who are saved. Right. For the aspiring vegan.
All right. So there's nothing that's more habitual than eating meat, especially in the U.S. Right? It's so deeply rooted in our culture. So when people come to us, they've already made at least some of the decision that they want to stop supporting this cruel industry, that this habit of taking the life of a living sentient being just for their satiation, right? But because it's so deeply rooted in our culture and just who we are, it can certainly feel like something that is like the difference between life or death for the individual that's shifting to that. And that's normal. That's perfectly fine, but that's, like I said, that's the beauty of where this program comes into play, is that we have that personalization. You are connected to another real life human being that is your go-to. They are that guru, someone who has experience with this stuff. They've experienced the same feelings and emotions and hesitations that a lot of people may be feeling. in regards to looking at considering this lifestyle. And so to be able to offer that to people and to be able to benefit from that as an aspiring vegan is really powerful for everybody involved.
So you, as a PETA vegan mentor program coordinator, how many vegan mentors are there? You don't get all the calls, do you? Or do you get all the calls?
No, not anymore. At this point, we have, including the mentors that are in training, and everyone's a volunteer, except for one or two of us at the organization. We have 72 volunteer mentors throughout the world. That includes 6 different countries, and total, we've had a little over 1,800 people come through the program. So we are able to divvy it up. And then even then, that doesn't mean that 1,800 are divided between 60 people. With the way that the mentoring works is that they kind of come in waves, right? We work with somebody for several months. You never lose your mentees. And the mentees never lose their mentor, but after several months, people get their feet under them and they become more comfortable in their lifestyle, and the amount of questions and just time that they need to dedicate to inquiring with their mentor just naturally decreases over time, and that allows our volunteers to then shift that new time, that availability that they have into new aspiring vegans to take under their wing.
So tell me, you mentioned 1,800 people in worldwide, 6 different countries, you said?
Yes, sir.
And are they primarily English-speaking countries, or do you have people who want to be vegetarian worldwide coming from, tell us the extremes in terms of, like, certainly you have mentees in the United States, but where is a country that we might not think would have a mentee who calls PETA for a mentor?
There's they are predominantly English-speaking inquiries that we receive. But that said, we do catalog all of our mentors. One of the things that we catalog for each of our mentors are the languages that they are able to correspond in the alternative languages to English. So that, if we receive Spanish-speaking inquiries or Chinese-speaking inquiries, or really anything that we're able to accommodate based off of the mentors that we have in our network at the time, we're able to accommodate. We've received, I don't know, from the pool of 1,800, I would say that last time I counted, we had slightly more than 60 different countries represented throughout the world for people that are aspiring to go vegan.
Countries like count from how big to how small?
Gosh, South Africa, South Korea, China, Russia, pretty much any European country that you can think of. South America, Ecuador.
You have people in South Korea saying, "I need help. Can you help me become vegan?"
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've had several inquiries from individuals from the capital. Offhand, that's the only one I can think of. But
from Seoul,
yes, correct.
Do you have people say that? Hey, I've seen my cousins eat dog. I don't want to eat dog. That kind of thing, or do you have? I'm forced to eat this ceremonial meal. Mm-hmm. In foreign countries, do you enter some cultural kind of issues at times?
Certainly, and that is something that is one of the primary driving forces for us to incorporate volunteer mentors from all over the world so that they have more of that cultural aptness to understand and then more efficiently guide aspiring vegans through this stuff because, they live in close proximity or they've perhaps traveled or spent significant time in these countries that allows them to understand and address different questions and concerns accordingly. And so, like I said, with the language was just one of the factors that we catalog with our volunteer mentors. Another tidbit would be, like I said, different countries that they've either spent a lot of time in, or they just tend to be very privy to the vegan scene or the food scene as an even bigger representation.
In terms of the specifics of, say, South Korea, well, we know that PETAs had, action alerts about dog that's being served, like during the Winter Olympics. Have you ever had anyone there from South Korea say, what do I do when, I'm at a family function and they're serving dog or they're serving meat in general? Mm-hmm. Have you had instances where you've had to deal with that?
Not from South Korea specifically pertaining to dog that I can remember. Now, that said, at this point with my responsibilities of the program, I am doing a lot of initial outreach, and then once I gather intro information from our mentees, then I'm shifting them to our mentors at that point. So I don't necessarily have as much of detailed interaction, regardless of what the cultural implication is, whether it's eating meat or dog meat in South Korea or any other cultural religious barrier or perceived barrier that someone may think or know that they're going to face in these situations. That all ends up playing into the social interactions, right? And that is one of the largest focuses that we have for this program. Of course, first and foremost, we want to help people build a sustainable lifestyle shift for themselves, but also helping them work through these social implications, because at the end of the day, we are ambassadors for the lifestyle, right? So as important as it is for us as individuals to make this decision that is helping the planet, helping and all of the inhabitants of the planet, just as importantly, we have to realize that the way that we communicate the lifestyle to other people is just as important, not only for your own personal well-being, but for the lifestyle itself becoming more and more accepted throughout the world.
Do you tell this? Is this what you tell people who ask you, who aren't part of PETA? They say, "This is my job. I help people stay vegan." Do you tell that to people when they ask you what you do? What do you tell them?
Yeah. So when I get that question, basically something along the lines of, I work with individuals who are aspiring to eat less meat, and they are hesitant for one reason or another, that they won't be able to efficiently adhere to the lifestyle. And so where we come into play is that we are that go-to individual for someone who has plenty of burning questions or concerns or perceived barriers with their abilities to do so.
So what do what do people who want to be new vegans, what do they have the most trouble with in your experience? And what questions do you ask the most?
As much as we within the vegan community are adamant about this being a lifestyle, not just a diet. At the end of the day, it does come down to food in the vast majority of situations, or the concerns and questions that people have. The things like where to shop or what they can eat, and when they're dining out or interacting with friends and family in those situations, being able to help people reframe their thoughts on how they look at food and what foods we can eat, because 99% of the foods that we can eat are plant foods anyway. It's just helping them realize that and then shifting them in that direction.
So what do you tell people when they say, well, it's hard to shop? What do I do at a party with my family? My family is nothing but meat eaters. What do you tell them?
So that's the thing. Like with this lifestyle, it's so often it's framed as this all or nothing decision, right? Where, if you're not doing every single thing you can in every situation, and you're not going from, omnivore to vegan overnight or within a certain amount of time, that it's, the progress that you have made is irrelevant. And that's unfortunate. That's toxic to our movement too. And so really emphasizing to people that when they come through this program, that every single choice that they make that promotes kindness over cruelty is not only substantial, but it's worthy of praise. And, at the end of the day, we will strive to continue improving upon that. But in the beginning, you focus on what you can do or what you already are doing. Acknowledge those achievements and continue moving forward as you learn more, because there is a lot to learn.
Yeah, well, it sounds to me like you are emphasizing the importance not just to be compassionate toward the animals, whose lives you save, but also it sounds like there's a little bit of compassion toward yourself to if you aren't perfect, that it's okay. You can move forward and take these incremental gains.
Precisely. It's so easy to be difficult on yourself, especially when it's a decision that you're making out of the kindness of your heart and you're making it out of compassion, because that's what the lifestyle is. This lifestyle is based out of compassion. And very often that is the primary driving force, or one of the primary driving forces that people are adhering to when they are coming to us interested in shifting their lifestyle. So really, focusing on acknowledging the choices that you have made and the shifts that you've already put into action, and appreciating them, celebrating them, because they are achievements. And, that's why you have somebody that you're paired with that doesn't have an expiration date. You stay with them as long as you need to, and just keep striving to improve upon all of the progress that you have made and will continue to make.
Now, is there a difference between, it's a lifestyle, so it's the clothing you wear, it's the approach, how you view animals, but then it does ultimately get down to diet. Do some people have it easier on one end and not the other, a little tougher on the diet, or are some people have it easy on making sure they have vegan clothing and, they're using vegan products all throughout their lives, but the food is the hardest? What do you find is the issue with most people?
The food, at least initially, and for the reasons that we had mentioned before, there's, what to eat, making sure I'm getting the nutritional value in my food now, eating enough calories, where to eat. I mean, all of that stuff is definitely the largest collective issue and point of questioning.
Well, let's break that down. Let's break that down then. Can people get all the calories and all the nutrition they need solely from a vegan diet? I know that, you know the answer and I know the answer, but a lot of people who are just turning to this, who are faced with people who are naysayers, will say, well, what are you going to do about protein? Or what are you going to do about, all the deficiencies that can come up? People are concerned. What do you tell them about the issue of, are you going to get enough calories and enough nutrients?
Yeah, and that's a valid concern, because there's a lot of archaic mentalities out there with when it comes to nutrition, and nutrition's tough. I mean, there's no doubt about that, regardless of what scope you're viewing it in. But at the end of the day, you can absolutely get all of the proper vitamins, minerals, nutrients, calories, everything that you need to sustain a healthy, happy lifestyle can be achieved through eating solely plant foods. The protein, I mean, that kind of gets like the highlight of concern, at least traditionally, and learned through this, especially over the last few decades, that protein's easy. The plants are full of protein, and in reality, if there's any concern with protein, it's getting too much protein, which is where the vast majority of Americans fall under. And then when there are animal-based proteins, you get all the disease that follows suit. So yes, to answer your question, at the end of the day, you can get everything you need now. Plant-based foods tend to be less calorically dense, which in most cases is fantastic news for people. But that being said, it does take a little bit of cognizant awareness while you're shifting your dietary habits, just to make sure you're getting enough calories, because it can be a shock to your system that you're eating the same amount of food as you were before, but now I'm eating less calories that go with it. So you just want to make sure that you're watching that initially, just so it's not as much of a shock on your system.
So how many grams of protein does an average person need? What would be a safe amount? And that would not be too much protein, but just enough, and that you can get it all from a plant-based diet.
Most of the numbers that I've seen say anywhere from 40 to 60 grams of protein a day. And that's anywhere from, that includes women and men. Men tend to be on the higher end of that spectrum. And then when it comes to sources, I mean, stuff like legumes, like beans and edamame and lentils and peanuts and peanut butter and tempeh, nutritional yeast, oats, seeds, quinoa, whole grains. I mean, this stuff is loaded with protein. It really is not difficult to obtain that 40 to 60 grams a day if you're specifically focused on protein. It's very easy.
What is the biggest stumbling block for people when they become vegan, and it constitutes maybe the bulk of the concern of, say, a mentor to a mentee when they talk to each other? What do you think that might be?
Yeah, aside from the beginning stages where it's just like, where do I start and what do I eat? That stuff, it doesn't take long for people to get their feet under them with that stuff, because very quickly they'll realize through the guidance of our seasoned expert vegan mentors that there is a lot of stuff out there, and you just have to reframe how they're looking at their dinner plates. But the longest lasting barrier that people tend to face tends to be the social interactions. So often people are going into this lifestyle, and it's something that they're doing out of compassion, and they feel very attached to what this lifestyle means. They'll be in a situation where their closest friends or their family don't necessarily understand where they're coming from, and they don't get quite as much support as they would have otherwise expected. And again, that's, there's such a deeply rooted cultural association with meat. So it's understandable that other people confused or hesitant to necessarily be receptive to that new lifestyle. But that's the beauty of it. You have this personalized program that gives you that instant support system right from day one, someone that you can lean on, not only for your own transition, but how to more efficiently interact with the friends, the family, or any other type of social situation.
Tell us about how the journey begins. I say I'm someone who wants a mentor. I want to be a mentee. I call up, or I go to the PETA website and sign up. Then what happens? How does take us on the journey? What happens to a mentee? Does he get sent a kit? What's the kit say? Mm-hmm. And how does the mentee interact?
Through our website, there's a sign-up form. People will just send us a little bit of information, their name and their email, and then we will internally reach out to every single person individually. You'll receive an email from either myself or one of my colleagues introducing ourselves, introducing the new vegan to the program, and we'll ask them a couple quick questions just about why they made this decision, perhaps some of their favorite non-vegan foods, why, or if they have any burning questions right from the start. And that way we have something to additionally base our pairings off of. So we get answers to those questions. We also have their age and their geographic location. And so with all of those factors, we're then able to pair them with the mentor that we feel would be the most efficient and the most advantageous for that mentee to have to be guided through.
Yeah, and the mentor again is a volunteer, and they reach out to each other by phone or by computer. Or how does it work?
Yeah, the vast majority of correspondence is via email, both initially and just longer term. It tends to be the case. That said, we certainly support and encourage both mentees and mentors to interact in other platforms as well. Email can offer certain benefits, of course, but then when you have phone and video calls, or hey, if they're in the same geographic location, we have mentees, mentors that meet up in person and go grocery shopping together. And, you add multiple layers of personality and connection within those pairings, within those bonds that they have. And, it just adds to the value of that relationship that's being built between mentee and mentor.
And so I guess also it adds to a sense of community. If they can see each other in person, or even if it's just a phone conversation, I guess there's that feeling that a budding vegan is not alone in this journey. But tell us about some of the pitfalls that could happen, or the pitfalls that have happened, and how you overcome them.
Pitfalls with mentees during their transition.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's certainly that's certainly one of the reasons that we encourage our mentors to stay up to date with their mentees, touch base with them as often as they can, so that we can try to more effectively gauge what people may be going through longer term. And I would say there aren't necessarily pitfalls. I mean, you still, no matter what we're offering on our end, you still have to have that desire to actually make this change. Comes down to you as an individual wanting to do this. And there's no degree of us forcing anything on anybody. And in fact, our style with the program is the exact opposite of that. But the social interactions, not just to kind of play back on those, they can be difficult for people. This is something that means the world to individuals that are shifting towards this, and to not have that support, I think it can very easily hurt. I mean, these tend to be individuals that in some circumstances you lean on for so much in life, especially emotional support and guidance, and to be shifting your lifestyle out of the kindness of your heart towards a more compassionate way of living, and to not have the support from the people that are closest to you, that can be hard, and again, there is certainly understanding from the other perspective, just because of how psychologically intimidating it can be for people to talk to someone who is vegan and doing this, and then the non-vegan kind of internally not feeling as if they are living to the same degree of empathy that someone as in the vegan shoes is doing.
Yeah. So what happens is when these aspiring vegans see that their loved ones aren't giving them support, this is where the value of the PETA vegan mentor rises, because they're there to make sure that they don't fall, or that they continue on.
Yeah, tremendous value from that perspective. But again, that's just from the individual, the aspiring vegan's perspective, and just their ability to more efficiently cope with the situation for themselves, but also, like we were saying before, as ambassadors for the lifestyle. Once you're grounded in your comfort with the lifestyle, whether that's shopping or interacting with other people, it adds tremendous value to the movement and the lifestyle as a whole, because we're able to essentially help shape the next generation of vegans, help in a sense, helping to train them to be as effective as possible with interacting with other people.
Well, tell me, what's the demographic of people who seek out mentors? Are they young? Are they old? You say next generation. Mm-hmm. It suggests that you're dealing with a primarily young crowd, or is that not true?
We work with anyone 22 and older. And so we work with people that are 22 upwards of mid to late 70s, I would say, are the oldest. And even on that regard, we have a youth mentorship program for those who are 13 to 21. So, I mean, it covers the gamut of ages, and we certainly see inquiries from people of all ages and walks of life, and it's beautiful to see that.
Okay, so what kinds of people tend to want to go vegan? Are there certain types, or are they all different?
I mean, they're certainly all different, hence the need for that personalization, because we can't put any type of umbrella approach to how we're mentoring people. It all comes down to working with mentors that are able to evaluate that individual's needs, whether that's food or religious implications or some other cultural barrier that individuals are facing. For whatever hesitations and questions that they have, our mentors are trained to work with their mentees to figure out what's going to be the healthiest and most importantly, the most sustainable approach for that individual to take that will help them stick with this lifestyle for the rest of their life.
All right. So highlight 3 people for me, if you will. Give me 2 examples of real success stories. But before you do, give me an example of someone who you just couldn't help, who failed the program and you don't hear back from. So give me an example of someone who failed and give me 2 examples of, say, people who got through the program and have succeeded.
Yeah. With the first one, like what I was mentioning before is that, I mean, we can't force people to stick with this. It still comes down to the individual and them finding that place deep in their hearts that continues to drive them to sticking with the lifestyle, whether that's taking that extra step to look for the foods that they're missing that, they can find the vegan version of, or to work on their interactions with other people and not taking it personally. I think that is a lot of where those social interactions come into play, and what the core problem that people have with it is that it's easy to take that personally, any type of negative feedback they get from individuals. So yeah, I mean, we certainly have people that,
well, give me a specific example of someone who has failed and how they either stopped calling you or just sort of dropped out of the program. And then give me 2 success stories, but begin with a person, an example of someone who did not get through the program.
Oh gosh, I don't know if I have anybody off the top of my head.
I mean, do you convert them all? I just want to get a sense of what the kind of journey that happens when someone just doesn't take to the program, or, finds that this isn't the way that's going to help them and they do something else, or they just stop.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody, just comes to their own personal decision that this isn't something that they can or want to stick with, I mean, that's just kind of the extent of it. They just stop interacting with us. We kind of cease communication. I mean, there's only a certain degree of assistance that we can give that will encourage people to stick with the lifestyle sustainably.
But nothing comes to mind in terms of one particular, you don't have to name them, but one particular person who didn't, and what happened in his or her case?
There is an individual that comes to mind. We were working with them. I was actually specifically working with him for about 2.5 months, and he initially came to us because he had a dietary restriction, a health concern that he was trying to change. And for the first 2+ months, we were working together, and he was certainly improving his diet. And for the most part, he was seeing positive results in every other aspect of his transition, both his weight and his cholesterol and a few other things. But the one initial health concern that he came to us for, he wasn't actually seeing any difference in. And at the end of the day, that was the only thing that really mattered to him. And unfortunately, there are still health professionals out there that aren't necessarily sold on the health benefits of a plant-based diet. And when you have let's say a doctor saying that there's no value in doing this, which is certainly not the case in the vast majority of circumstances. But if you have a health professional that isn't particularly keen on the nutritional benefits of the lifestyle, then yeah, I mean, you can only do so much to work with somebody in that situation if they're not willing to adhere to the science behind the nutritional benefits of the lifestyle.
So there are instances where people, or where PETA gets big-footed by another authority whom the mentee listens to, and it's someone, or it's an authority that tends to dismiss plant-based diets.
Yeah, and I mean that's certainly something that just with nutrition being such a kind of a crapshoot in a lot of people's minds, and people having very strong opinions on what the proper nutritional platform is for human beings. You certainly have medical professionals that are very passionate promoters of this lifestyle, this diet. But then you also get the other end of the spectrum, and especially if it's a situation where it's your existing medical professional and you're not necessarily willing to go outside of that bubble for other opinions on the matter, then that can easily skew someone's opinion on how effective this lifestyle is, and for the vast majority of people.
But in this day and age, when we have identified the carcinogenic link between, say, nitrites and in processed meats and cancer, when we look at foods and we look at how excess indulgence in these sorts of say meat-based or dairy-based versus plant-based foods, how that results in disease, shouldn't we be in a more uniform and shouldn't we be more in agreement that a move to plant-based diets is actually healthier than to stay in the current diet that is primarily meat-centric?
Absolutely. And culturally, we are certainly shifting in that direction, both from the medical perspective as well as just the general audience of people that are considering it. But that said, it's not across the board, but we are seeing very promising shifts towards that. And documentaries and such as Forks Over Knives and What the Health are doing a lot of promotional good for these cultural shifts and how we view that. So it'll never go as quickly as we would like it to, especially from the ethics standpoint. But we are making significant progress, and there are a lot of people that are very well educated on the topics and passionate about continuing that momentum from both the health perspective, the ethical perspective, the environmental perspective.
Let's talk about this idea of the two success stories and the journeys they took and how long it took.
The two that come to mind right off the top of my head would be two of my at this point, they're both dear friends. Karen from Savannah, Georgia, and Tracy from Toronto in Canada. And Karen, she came to our program about 2 years ago, and Tracy was a little less than a year and a half ago. Both of them were mentees under me specifically, and I worked with both of them for several months as they shifted towards their lifestyles, or shifted their lifestyles towards a more vegan friendly and eventually entirely vegan. And then since then, I'm still in contact with them to this day. Like I said, in Karen's case, over 2 years, and they are both hyper dedicated to the lifestyle, and in different ways. Karen has now started a blog called Fat Girls Thrive. She started a Facebook group that goes with it as well, and it's about empowering women to take control of their health and their compassion through a vegan lifestyle. And Tracy has not only gotten her daughter involved in adhering to the vegan lifestyle, but both of them have now become very active animal rights activists in the Toronto area, both through PETA and through other outlets in the area. And both of them, on top of that, have actually come full circle and are now mentors through our program, which is really beautiful. The fact that we have this effect on people shifting their lifestyle and then being able to essentially offer an outlet that they can then repay it back in a sense. Not that that's ever an expectation, but through both of their cases, it was something that they were ecstatic about the opportunity to do that because it's just so deeply rooted in who they are now.
Now, in one of the women that you mentioned, the woman with the blog, it was weight loss an issue for her? Was that, and did she succeed in that? And has she kept the weight off? Or what was her story in terms of how she found her veganism contributing to her new healthy lifestyle?
Yeah. So that was Karen from Savannah. Weight was certainly something that was part of the driving force for her coming to us initially. It was more of an ethical animal rights focus, but she had, I believe it was 25 to 30 pounds that she wanted to lose. She effectively lost that weight and then some. She has kept it off, and she's also improved her cholesterol and her blood pressure as well, and has kept each of those at healthy levels as well for the 2+ years that she's been vegan. And the focus of her blog is to empower women through health and compassion.
And tell us about yourself now. You've been at this a couple of years. I know that from the things I've read, you're an athlete, so that says something about what veganism can do to either help or enhance your athletic endeavors. But how has it helped you as an athlete to stay vegan? And if your results are good, do you continue to stay vegan because of that, or is that just one of the ancillary benefits?
Yeah, well, I mean, it certainly feels great to have that as what I'll refer to as an added benefit. Because I mean, for me, the initial and primary driving force is certainly from an ethical perspective. But yeah, I am an athlete. I'm a long distance runner. I run marathons, half marathons, compete in other types of competitive road and off-road races. And since going vegan, and that was nearly 9 years ago, I saw a drastic increase in not only my timing, being able to shed time off of any type of race, but also recovery. Recovery was a big one that I drastically underestimated the impact and the effectiveness that this lifestyle would have. Whereas before going vegan, I could run a marathon and my body would be aching for an entire week in some cases. Since I went vegan, just because the efficiency that our body is able to assimilate the vitamins and the minerals and the nutrients that are in plant-based foods, because, I mean, biologically, that's what our bodies are designed for. We're absolutely 100% herbivorous. And so my body's ability to recover and thus get back to training at a quicker speed was, like I said, I underestimated it, but it was endless of value to that. And then even within the race, like I said, I was able to shed timing off, but just feeling lighter and feeling more energized throughout the race, not needing to rely on different supplements and Gatorade and little like gummy energy pills and like all the stuff that you see runners taking throughout their races. This stuff was almost irrelevant at that point. I mean, just keeping your glucose up. But aside from that, I mean, tremendous value with just eating how our bodies are designed to eat and process food.
Tell us about how where you are today compares with where you were at the beginning of this journey, as you have talked to all these people who've been through the Vegan Mentor Program, PETA's Vegan Mentor Program as a mentor and dealing with all these mentees.
Yeah. So for me, the biggest reward is that we're able to offer this program to not only help people during their a huge shift in their lives, whether they're able to grasp the magnitude of it or not at the time, to kind of be there for people during that is really powerful. And at this point, now that we are bringing on volunteer mentors and offering that as an outlet for existing mentors, to offer that outlet to vegans, existing vegans, so that they can share that knowledge in a positive platform, it is to some degree equally as rewarding, because regardless of how long you've been vegan, it can certainly be frustrating at times, especially when you're communicating that lifestyle to other people. So to have a positive, upbeat outlet to share all that information that they have with people that want the information, I mean, people that are craving the information, it's really powerful to have that for existing vegans, so they can not only practice how to interact with people and kind of hone in on effective communication when they don't have to worry about the backlash, but it's just uplifting in general. And I feel that anytime we can incorporate more positive into our daily lives, that's only going to be a good thing for people.
Well, it sounds to me that whatever a vegan mentor does is really whatever a vegan who is out in the world talking to people who are non-vegan should be doing to communicate what it means to be vegan or what it means to have this lifestyle and this diet. It's all communication, whether or not you're officially in the PETA vegan mentor program or not. It sounds like almost like AA in the sense that, what do you tell the vegan or the aspiring vegan who calls up and says, "Oh, I went to a family dinner and they wanted me to, they had this cultural dish that has meat in it and I just had to have it." What do you tell that person? I mean, first of all, is it a crime when that kind of person has a momentary lapse? And what do you tell that person?
Yeah, first and foremost, that it's absolutely not a crime. That's understandable. Like we were saying before, this is such a deeply rooted habit that it takes time to reshift that. And it's so easy to focus on this being like some kind of pursuit of personal purity, when in reality, we really need to shift that mentality towards pragmatism. We much more need to focus on, and not the end goal of veganism, but those individual choices, like I said before, that we're making. And okay, if you like make a mistake or you're weak at the knees in a situation, okay, fine. Like, keep moving forward. That doesn't mean we give up on the rest of this focus and this shift towards compassion. You hope to improve upon yourself moving forward, both in similar situations and just with everything else that may be a barrier at the time. But you do what you can you make the best decision you can in any point in the game, and just strive to continually improve. And
yeah, my point is that we're teaching veganism, not Catholicism, and guilt isn't part of this equation, right? Or is it?
No, not at all. No, that's unfortunately, people have to some degree that view of vegans because they've had some type of negative interaction with a vegan being judgmental or preachy or chastising somebody for a decision they've made or not doing enough. But at the end of the day, if you're 80% of the way there, that is fantastic. And we want to support that and help you appreciate that as much as possible, because that's beautiful and it makes a massive difference. And with that last 20%, we'll work on it. That's why we're here, and that's why we're always here. You never lose your mentor, and we just strive to keep doing better, just like anything in life. This shift towards not eating animals isn't different than anything. We want to constantly evaluate who we are and improve upon ourselves whenever possible.
I think you're right when you say that maybe a lot of people want to get back at veganism for some vegans being judgmental or critical. So it ends up being a kind of gotcha type situation where, people always say, well, look, you're wearing a leather belt, or look, you have a leather fringe on your bag, or, which is really kind of ridiculous and petty and doesn't mean anything. And yet it's all to point out some hypocrisy, some sense of hypocrisy, to expose the vegan, which is really a kind of weak response for the non-vegan who wants to, fight back and be critical. of the vegan. But that's where the debate is, unfortunately, right now, where people play these gotcha games to try to expose hypocrisy when, in fact, we're all just trying to be better. We're all, moving to be better. And it's not a matter of some absolute purity that we, that we sustain 100% of the time. I mean, it's almost like, telling the truth or being, absolutely, use the word purity, vegan purity. It's difficult because a lot of people will see that and they'll view it as a kind of a guilt-ridden thing, or they'll use guilt as a way to either keep them going or to stop them from being vegan in some ways.
Yeah. And it's when non-vegans have that response, a lot of that can be tied to that internal discomfort that they may be feeling because they know that they could potentially be doing something else, but it's easier to validate their existing choices as opposed to actually changing. And you know what? Like, a lot of that comes back to us as well as vegans, being able to effectively communicate with people and to realize that, we're all at a different stage in the game, and this is a lifestyle that's built off of compassion. So regardless of where we are in our own journey, whether we're vegan or not, it doesn't mean that we as vegans or as non-vegans should be disrespecting our own species along the way. That still falls under the umbrella of compassion for all beings. And just trying to adhere to that in everyday life. And that includes, as vegans, adhering to that within discussions with non-vegans.
I mentioned earlier a kind of a 12-step model for, omnivores or meat eaters or carnivores, Carnivores Anonymous or something like that. But is there like a Serenity Prayer or something that you tell people as a mentor, someone who's struggling, someone who's in is that usually when they call? Do you tell people to call you when they're struggling and they're being tempted by an ice cream cone or tempted by a luscious whipped cream dessert? They can't find the non-dairy whipped cream, or they want to have a cheeseburger and they're just besides themselves. Is that when they call? Is that when you tell them to call?
They can call whenever they want. I mean, that is certainly why I, at least personally, share my phone number and my email with every mentee that's under my wing, whether it's an in-the-moment thing or they're at the grocery store and they see a new product and they want to text me and ask me if I know anything about it. I mean, anything and everything you can think of. Not only do I encourage them to reach out to me for, but we certainly hear a wide range of questions and communication styles from people pertaining to various concerns that they have. And at the end of the day, it's whether they're in the moment not sure what to do, or call me after the fact and they're upset that they ate the cheeseburger or whatever it is that they kind of felt themselves caving into. It's fine. You just move on. It's not. You're not a terrible person for not being 100% vegan all of the time from day one. It's a process, and that's fine. We're all in this together. You just hope the mistakes that you personally make, you just want to improve upon them. It's not about chastising yourself, and it's not about chastising other people. We just want to effectively make compassionate choices whenever possible and improve upon them accordingly.
And it's also, not only is it not about, yourself, it's not about, your failing or whatnot. It's about the animals, and it's about the earth, right? It's about, how we can sustain our lifestyles with all the other species around us.
Yeah, you're spot on. I mean, it's not just as vital as this lifestyle and impactful as this lifestyle can be. towards bettering the planet, it's still something that we as a whole have to encourage others to shift towards, because it's very unsustainable, as I'm sure a lot of the listeners today know. It's arguably the worst thing that any of us can do as individuals to support environmental degradation is to eat meat. And just one of the many reasons why this lifestyle is arguably the most ethically conscious decision that we can make. And, it does come down to having that desire to do it, but it is immensely impactful, and it's simply shifting your lifestyle. It's not necessarily making anything more difficult. You just work with us, and we'll help that shift be as easy and sustainable and fun as we can for that individual. I mean, it's not about losing 90% of the food that you can eat, because that's just not the case.
And if they fall off the wagon, we'll set off the alarm.
Right. We don't tell people that, but
anyway. Yeah. So, Keith, I appreciate you taking the time, and I know you have many mentees to talk to. So, thank you. PETA's Vegan Mentor Coordinator, Keith Burgeson, on how the mentor program works, how it's helped others, and how it's a totally guilt-free approach to help you make more compassionate choices in your lifestyle. If being a mentee is your cup of tea, take action. Go to PETA.org to sign up and get a mentor today. That's the PETA Vegan Mentor Program to aid your journey toward compassion. Go to PETA.org. That's our show this time out. Hey, contact us at PETA.org. You can find me on Twitter at Emil Amok, that's EMILAMOK, or on amok.com, AMOK.com. Once again, thank you for listening. Check out all our episodes on Apple Podcasts, where you can rate and review the show. Remember, it helps get the word out about the issues you care about. And don't forget, you can help the animals and PETA, especially if you have Amazon's Alexa. Just say, Alexa, donate to PETA. Our music is provided by Carbonworks. Check them out on YouTube. And join us again next time for more insight into animal rights and the fight for a cruelty-free world on the PETA Podcast. I'm Emil Guillermo.